Hey, horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of You, Season 3. Alright, so this one doesn't just jump out and say horror fans or horror audience. This one is on Netflix, and I guess if you go to IMDb, it says, romance, thriller, drama, all this other stuff. But I think if you've watched season one, watched season two, or even any bit of season three, there is horror in this. So I don't think you can ignore that, and that is why I decided I'm going to throw this review up here. Uh, I did watch season one or two. I haven't. Don't know why. I thought maybe I did a review, but it doesn't appear that I did. Uh, or maybe I did. I just can't find it. I don't know. You know how these things are. Regardless, we just finished watching season three, and I'm not gonna go back and do too much on season one or two, but through three seasons, it is something that I've enjoyed, and I think if you guys are horror fans out there, again, this is not horror to start, but I think it becomes more and more horror as it goes. And this is something different. This is a series that you guys can watch, and maybe I watch it with my wife, so maybe this is something if boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, whatever, blah blah, husband, you guys can watch together, because it's got that kind of element to it. It is largely starts with love and relationships and so forth. But then does stumble down a path of horror and darkness. And, as I watch this, I think one of the things that kind of grabs me is I'm reminded every now and then of Dexter. And not to per se and I'll explain a little bit about what You is and the plot and so forth. I usually do the IMDb plot, but there is none really important one to give you here. But uh, every once in a while, as the show kind of goes on, I'm reminded of Dexter, and the series Dexter, that is, and not the cartoon, the serial killer Dexter, yes. But in whenever, so kind of getting that vibe from it, and I think tells you enough that there is a horror element to this. So while it is a lot of things in one, I think it's worth a mention, and hopefully by doing this, if you haven't seen it, maybe you'll give it a look. Again, that knowing maybe you didn't know that there's an element of horror to this, and mostly in that there are murders here, there are deaths, and I think that's most of the horror. But you also get a little bit of the twisted mind, and the mind. Even though and again, I'll talk about what the story involves here in a minute. Um, they're not serial killers per se, but the more this goes on, the more that kind of is what's taking place, and they have a lot of things similar to serial killer, like bad past and bad things happening to them um, when they're younger and going through life, which just kind of led them to this point. Not an excuse, but we see a lot of movies with serial killers. Obviously, something bad happened to them in the past that kind of put them on this path to killing, and that's part of what is happening here. So basically, to kind of start at the beginning here, for those who have no idea what You is, again, this is on Netflix, and just had its third season, and I believe is okayed for a fourth season. They certainly leave it off like there's going to be a fourth season, and I believe I read that there probably will be. But just to let you know, just in case you're wondering whether you want to wait or not, I know some people like to wait till the whole series is over and then do it. Regardless, starting at the beginning here, the story follows Joe. He owns a bookstore. Not an exciting thing here. Owns a bookstore and blah blah. But don't worry, really doesn't get too much into that. It's not like you're sitting there watching him in the bookstore all the time. Um, but he basically, in doing so, he stumbled upon a woman named Guinevere and basically begins to stalk her and learn everything he can about her, and then eventually find his way into her life, and tries to find a way, into her life and be her boyfriend, and then hopefully, one day, obviously, husband or whatever. But Joe is very much got that stalker in him, and as you'll see this, he's very pretty good at it, and he's a smart guy, and he's gonna, kind of try to stay a step ahead of her, and as this goes on, he kind of gets involved in some of the other elements of her life, and kind of trying to maybe tilt things obviously in his favor, whether maybe she's looking at somebody else or somebody else comes along. There's another friend in her life that is close to Joe, as far as being a very close friend to her, and you'll see that he bumps heads with her. Season 1 and 2 have been out for a while. I don't think I'm going to spoil too much. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to try not to spoil anything overall. But it's gonna spend part 1 and going into season 2 a lot of time with the focus on her, and then his attentions will change. You're gonna see that it's not a smooth relationship. There are bumps in the road. They're together, they're not together. They go through a lot of this. We're meant to be together, we're not meant to be together kind of thing. Each of them does have relationships with other people. Joe has a girlfriend from prior that we learn a little bit more about as we go, and obviously some strange stuff there. He does do some narrating as this goes on, so you're watching some of the action in a typical kind of setting, and then you're going to hear some narration of him talking, and then that's kind of him talking in his head, but you as the audience just kind of get to see where he's coming from in his thoughts, and so you're gonna get a little bit of a mystery of he has this ex-girlfriend, and how did they break up, what really happened there. There's a little bit of that issue going on, and like I said, Gwen kind of dates some other people, he dates some other people in between, and there's they come together, not together, kind of thing. He's also has something, we learn a little bit of his past as this kind of drags on, and more of why he kind of is the way he is, and you'll see that. And one of the things he has, very interestingly, is a cage, and it's not in his apartment, it's in the bookstore, and it's downstairs, and he's the only one who really goes down there, has the key to it, and he has a cage down there, and it plays a role with something that happened in his past, and let's just say, as this kind of goes on, people are going to end up in the cage, and when people end up in this cage, it's not going to be good. So I think as this kind of starts, you don't really know, as you're learning about Joe, you're not really knowing, how bad of a person he can be, until he kind of does do some bad things, and like I said, there are some deaths and murder as this goes on. So, if you consider that spoiling it, then I guess I spoiled it for you. But in order for me to say this is horror, I got to go somewhere. So there are going to be some murder and deaths, and they may or may not happen around the cage. Not all of them, but around the cage. And I shouldn't even say it's a cage. Let's just call it a box. A box, a cage. It's not a jail cell. Let's put it that way. but people are going to be locked in there, and usually bad stuff is going to follow. Um, so here's your horror element for you, and you kind of get that vibe that it's never Joe's intention to kill. He's, like I said, he's not a serial killer. This is not, even though there are, like I said, some reminders to Dexter, this is not about serial killing. He's not capturing people because he wants to kill them, and that's his goal here. His ultimate goal is love, but as you see this goes on, he's really just chasing it. He thinks he's in love with whoever it is in the moment, but as I watch this, I think he's more in love with the chase, and as you'll watch this go on, it's more about the next challenge and so forth, and finding the next one. It's like when he's found one, he gets comfortable with her. Here comes somebody else, and it's like, okay, well, is it somebody else? And I think that's really where you land in part 3. At the end of season part 2, he's kind of fallen in with somebody else. You think that it's going to end very similarly to how season 1 ended, or even how season 2 kind of started, but it doesn't. It's got a big twist to it, big turn, and he has someone new he's with, and believe it or not, her name is Love, and so you're gonna find that he is with her now, moving into season 3. So his attention has been on several different people at this point, but now his attention is on her, and I will say, now that I'm going to talk about season 3, if you've seen season 1 or 2 and not season 3, you don't want to know too much, maybe, I don't know, this is a good point maybe to stop, or if you've not seen this whole thing, I'm going to probably be saying a few things that are going to ruin your experience if you haven't seen season 2, and I'm sorry, but there's just no way for me to talk about season 3 without kind of giving at least a little bit of conversation about who Love is, and then saying that is going to ruin some of the things for you in season 2. So that's kind of your moment here to decide whether you want to continue watching or not, or your spoiler alert, or whatever you want to call it. But he's found his way with Love, and as we enter the season, it looked like he was going to be satisfied with her, and they were going to have a kid together and so forth. But like I mentioned a minute ago, he's just obsessed with the next thing and whatever, and he quickly becomes obsessed with the neighbor next door, and he's usually ahead of the game, but before he can even get ahead of the game, the neighbor seems almost to be a little bit ahead of him, and a little peculiar on her own, and she might be making the moves a little bit on him before he's really kind of settled in on her, and but as we discover a little bit about Love at the end of season 2, Love kind of has a hint that something may be evolving here, and let's say Love puts an end to it, and this kind of sets the chain of events going down season 3 here. Basically, Joe really wants to be in the relationship because he now has a baby, and wants to do his best to be a father. A little bit hard to do when you've murdered and done some bad things, and this is his chance to kind of come clean or make a better start. But that's not going to be easy, and it's certainly not going to be easy when your wife starts killing people. So what you're going to see here is, in a way, they're very much the same person. They want to be who they want to be with, and maybe they don't want to, but if push comes to shove, if someone's going to get in the way, that person's going to get murdered at the end of the day, in order for them to stay with who they're with. So anytime the wife here, Love, thinks that Joe might be getting close to somebody, it becomes crystal clear that they might not live too long. And on the flip side, Joe, realizes this, and he really um, tries to stay clean, and tries not to get sucked into his usual ways, but he is going to. And he's going to, keep that hidden pretty well for as long as he can. Um, but eventually, the shit's going to hit the fan. And, you know, you're going to see, a lot of this. If you've seen how season 2 and going into season 3, you're going to know that, he did, want to be with Love at a certain point, and so forth. And there's still a bit of him that, and they, just like his past relationships, there is that little bit of back and forth where there are those moments where you think they're going to work out, then maybe they're not. It does a little bit of that. Like I said, there's involvement of the neighbor. Obviously, when she's murdered, that's going to set off a chain of events because you just can't murder somebody and nobody know about it. They're in a new town, a new setting, so that's going to cause issues that drag on. And then other people are going to find themselves in bad situations as well. So, and the cage is there. So, like I said, if the cage is around, bad things are going to happen in that cage. So you're going to have that. So you're going to have that element. So, while it's not fixated on blood and guts, and this is not a horror to start, there is the horror in it. You are going to see people die again. You are going to see, some okay deaths. I mean, again, this is not horror, so, this is not Michael Myers or Jason slaughtering anybody. This is more of a let's try to be as standard a bit kill. But there's going to be a little bit of blood, and there's going to be people dead. I think, let's just say the last, the last, whatever ends up happening in the cage last in the season becomes pretty entertaining. I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible. I'll just leave that. I think there's just a lot of things of interest here. I mean, if you're looking at it, like I said, just the whole relationship thing, I think, the way he relates to people, I think you're going to get a piece of how she relates to people. She's going to have, like I said, to kind of multiply it, she's just like another Joe. So, you have Love, who's wants to be with Joe, but is fighting not having relationships with other people. And you have Joe, who wants to be with her, but realizes, again, like I said, he's never satisfied, and he eventually has to find somebody else to fixate on, and kind of even if he's not with them, try to help them, and that kind of gets him in some bad situations as well. And while he started off so good in season 1 at doing this, it becomes more of a challenge, and more of the people that he's running into is more of a challenge, and it's not so easy, and things don't go as smoothly as they did when he started, and that causes all kinds of problems as well. So a lot to go here on, and if you like things that are like a little bit of psychological, you're going to get that, because you're going to get to see how the mind is played here. There are twists and turns, definitely at the end of this season. There's in the season finale, there's twists and turns to how that ended, and I like the ending. I didn't have a problem with it. There's a certain expectation there, especially if are expecting there to be a season 4. So it's not a total shock. It's hard to shock you when you think that there's going to be further seasons. But I thought they did a pretty good job with that. But again, another thing that I think is interesting is kind of, as you listen to either the conversations between the characters or the conversations that he kind of has in his head. The show is titled You, and you'll notice a lot of using of the phrase you, or the word you. And I think, when you kind of focus on that and kind of pick up how he uses that or how other characters use that as as they go along and as these relationships evolve and how they see things. It's pretty interesting stuff. Um, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Again, if you're just you guys know me at this point. I'm more interested in just the murder, death, blood, and kill. But doesn't mean I can't sit down and watch something like this um, I get into I can get into some of these psychological things as well, and that's fine, fine as well. Um, it's just watching. It's just fun watching the cat and mouse between him and whoever it is that he's trying to be with, and then obviously in this season it's fun because he's doing it, but he knows that if he pisses off his wife, that the person he's watching could be killed, and he never knows. Maybe she'll turn on him. So you kind of have that going on here, and then like I said, it's fun seeing another character who is very equal to him and is willing to kill as well. So. And you're gonna learn, and you have a little bit of backstory with her. You learned it in season 2. You'll learn a little bit more here in season 3, into why she does, and she has some issues that she carries along. So they are gonna go through. If you're wondering, you've seen the first 2 seasons, you're gonna get more of his backstory as well. I think in the first 2 seasons it focused on. I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to spoil everything, but they certainly focused on a certain aspect of his backstory. I think this one takes a different aspect of his growing up and kind of throws that in there and kind of gives you something to feed on why he feels the way he is. There are going to be some funny moments in this thing. He gets involved with some, like I said, they're in a new neighborhood, a new area, and they meet new people, and he gets put in. He has to go camping with some guys. And you kind of see how he is and how these guys are. That's not really him, but it becomes a very interesting kind of small scene. So there are those other moments that are kind of hilarious and not meant to be huge on comedy, but it's hilarious when you see him and the kind of the situations that he falls into sometimes. But yeah, I guess that's it to be said about season 3 without spoiling everything. But I kind of mainly wanted to do this to maybe bring it to your guys' attention. If you haven't seen this at all, or if you're just assuming that there is no horror in this, I think if you're into maybe a little bit of a psychological thriller kind of aspect, that's here for you. Like I said, there are deaths, but that's not the huge focus here. There's some decent ones along the way, but it's not. Again, while they have maybe the serial killer mind to them, that's not they're not Dexter. Their goal is not to satisfy the serial killer urge. It's really about relationships and love, and how far that they're willing to go to either be together or keep them apart from the other people out there in the world. And there's good and bad things that happen. So I wanted to do this, mainly to kind of bring your attention to it if you haven't. As far as rating this, I think it's developed enough, and so far between seasons 1 through 3, it's kind of hard to find a rating. I hate rating these series and when they're not complete because your mind kind of juggles as you kind of put all the pieces together and as the characters evolve and so forth. But I think I'll cop out and say 3 pools of blood, or maybe 3.5, just because you're getting a little bit of the first 2 seasons was mostly just him. This season you're kind of getting double of the fact that you're getting both Joe and Love here. So I'll give it 3.5, because you're getting 2 different angles of the same kind of person. um, built their own way because of different events, but you're getting basically two for the price of one, I guess. So yeah, I'll go with 3.5. I'm not sure where I would have rated the first two seasons as a whole. I probably would have, thinking about it, maybe season 1, 3, and maybe season 2, 3.5, just because you see like the season 2 is a lot like season 1, but then as it kind of winding down into the last couple episodes, it starts to flip it on you, and the twists and turns start rolling. And I think, while season 1 does have some twists and turns, I think really season 2, towards the back half of it, that's where it kind of spins, and then that just in season 3 they kind of just spin it on its head here, as you're going to know certain things, but there are going to be twists and turns along the way, and it's just amped up the more fun because now you have Joe and Love, who are both equally engaged in the possibilities of finding other people and killing other people as well. So I'll go with that. And I'm very happy that there'll hopefully be a season 4, and maybe I'll come on here and say something about that, depending how that season goes. So with that, again, this is on Netflix, in case you're wondering. And horrorreviews.blogspot.com if you're also wondering where else you can find reviews. Plenty of written reviews there. The video reviews are there as well. But if you're just interested in the video reviews, you subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. Like if you like the video, like if you like the show, like if you just like hitting the like button. If you have to hit dislike, do it. Don't feel bad. Just do it. It's okay. I can deal with it. Comment section down below if you want to comment on the series. Hopefully I didn't blow too much for you. I tried not to, but it's kind of hard. And if you need to reach out to me for something else and you need to do it in the comment section, feel free to do so. Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. We can talk about this show. We can talk about other horror. If you're also looking for me to review something, you can reach out to me there as well. And yeah, I guess that's about it. I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.